constant all of this. And what I'm starting to see is there's this kind of a transition, and where there's hundreds of jobs where we have veterinarians, we have intelligence analysts, we have communication analysts, we have secretaries, we have drivers. I mean, there's this huge entire range of all these jobs. So it's not always, you know, whenever you meet a veteran, while it is a huge component of the military force, I mean, it is the military, it's not the only thing there. And a lot of the veterans that leave, they have these tangible, you know, skills and assets that are a little bit more than just, you know, what we can imagine in movies. And so I think that's a big thing that I see a lot when I was in, and that's one thing that, you know, hopefully you guys can kind of take away from that at some point, is we're all not just killing machines, I guess, and we actually had jobs that are translatable into the civilian sectors.
I think my biggest takeaway, aha, was going in, I had a very narrow view of what made up the military, and going through boot camp really showed me how a family of diverse people, and for me it was co-ed division, male and female. So just the power of the forming of the formation of a family of people of different dialects, very surprising to me that there were those in our division who could not speak English well. Some of them had not been naturalized yet. So my view of the Navy was at that time, you know, very Americanized, but when we say global, it really is global.
So let's transition to the student realm. So why here? Why U of M? Leaders and best, I know, but why U of M?
Well, in order for me to maximize benefits, I was actually at USC prior to U of M. I had attempted twice and I was declined. So in order for me to maximize the benefits, I had to be in an on-campus program as opposed to an online program. So I gave it a shot, and while in boot camp, I got that letter from U of M saying you've been accepted. So that was a highlight of my tears.
Awesome. So hey, I chose Michigan and Ross because I love the community. It's one of the great parts about the military too, the community, the people, and it was one of the hardest things to leave. So when I came to University of Michigan, especially Ross, I fell in love with the community-based, everybody was here to help each other out approach to the school. And I think that was something I found in the Army too, so I'm glad to have found it afterwards also.
So actually, when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was a corporal at the time, picked up sergeant in January in the IRR. Yeah, and I applied to all these different colleges. I thought, you know, I'm a shoo-in, right? 35 ACT, you know, single mother, you know, I've got great diversity of experiences. So I applied to a lot of the Ivy Leagues, so Stanford, Yale, let me think, Brown as well too, Vanderbilt, you know, so not Ivy League, but you know, one of the higher end schools, and none of them would accept me. So U of M actually was the only person, that and U of I were the only two colleges that actually accepted me with all those credentials as well. So for me, it was, I just wanted to get out of Illinois, coming from Chicago originally, and I just wanted, you know, somewhere completely different. And I've loved it here, you know, that's, you know, it's been completely awesome.
Okay. We're a lot of people's second choice. What do you think?
Well, one, because Go Blue.
Yes.
Two, because it was my first choice, and three, the school that I had actually begun majoring in social studies was actually this one. So I had left and joined the service. I got back out. It was my full intention to finish what I started right here at my school, and so I understood that if I wanted to get readmitted, I would definitely have to show, aside from, you know, years of work experience, you know, that I was also, you know, academically prepared. So went to U of M Flint, maintained a 3.8, and then I reapplied only to discover that all I would need to do is become reactivated. I was like, oh, this is a new phrase. And basically, so I submitted my proposal to the academic review board, which they accepted it, and here I am.
Okay. Well, I'm from Michigan, and so like, you know, from the country, and U of M, you know, I knew it was the best school in the state. I knew between that and state, like Michigan State, this is the school I prefer to go to. Actually, I didn't think I could probably get in here. I had a pretty high GPA in high school, but my ACT scores were a little lower. Like they were just sub 30. It was like 28 or 29. So I didn't think I would be accepted until I had a conversation with one of my supervisors one day on shift, and she was a college admissions officer before joining the Navy, and so like she sat me down and kind of had a talk with me about like, you know, like I know you're thinking about getting out. What are you thinking about doing? And I was telling her that I'll just get out, use my GI Bill, go to some school and study. And then she mentioned like U of M, why not apply to Michigan? And I was like, well, I don't think I'd make the cut. And she was like, what are you talking about? You know, you were a language analyst in one of the most challenging programs and you did well there. So I think you know, you could be an asset. They'd be happy to have you, especially since you're bringing all that finances over with the GI Bill. And so I think when I got out, like that one conversation, that one night with Jackie, like changed everything for me. And I wanted to go to U of M because I knew it was such a, you know, it was such a high academic standard.
Do something you love and you'll never work another day in your life, and I'm kind of pursuing that, or at least that's my goal. And so I want to design or be part of a team that helps design vehicles. And so we're pretty close to Detroit, you know, and that's kind of what it's been. I figured this would be the path of least resistance. So that's the reason why I chose Michigan. It's more of a geopolitical, not geopolitical, but geographical thing for me, you know, being right next to the heartland of vehicle design in Detroit. So, yeah.
I just want to piggyback off Andrew. He, you know, being a linguist, you actually graduated from the DLI, the Defense Language Institute. That's actually one of the best language institutes in the entire country. The coming into U of M in any real academic setting, you know, they actually won't take a lot of your credits for anything because we get ACE credits, you know, which is kind of like military education credits. So just, you know, example, I ran, you know, communications for all of Southwest Afghanistan, and they told me I don't know anything about electrical engineering. So I decided to be a business student instead. But his credits will transfer anyway. DLI, yeah. So DLI credits, they're just because they're that prestigious. So I just want to put that out there, and just to kind of piggyback off Andrew's story, you know, that's a very common experience. A lot of people are like, I don't think I could get it. You know, whenever I talk to the other student vets, they're like, I'm not sure if I'll even apply, but we're just like, hey, just apply. You never know. I think that's, you know, when we talk about leaders at best, we do actually, I think we try our best in terms of, you know, getting that diversity of experiences and really, you know, really valuing that service to our country. So, you know, at least the Michigan institution itself. So, yeah, I really appreciate that.
And he was really lucky. You get to do all his training in Monterey, California.
Yeah, I was in California for that, so no complaints.
The nice part, that's what not Paul's.
Yeah.
So think about your experiences here as a student. What are some of the, what's maybe been a difficult thing about being a veteran, and how do you think, on the flip side, how do you think that that's
I think we all
helped
have
you?
something to say.
Everybody's like, congratulate. So let's, you know, high and low. So let's say like a difficulty or a thing that you noticed or stuff that, you know, happened to you that you didn't quite like. And also how the military service has helped you be a better student.
I'll start. I got the mic. So I think in relation to what John just said about diversity is like, as student vets, as older students, as non-traditional students, we really are diverse. And sometimes I think it's kind of a negative thing. Like, you know, like a lot of us, I can't speak for every veteran, but like I know myself and a lot of others, you know, we just feel like fish out of water, like a space alien in class sometimes, you know, like we've already been through so many of those like pivotal like growing up stages in the military that like all of our classmates are going through right now, you know. And so like it really separates us from a lot of the people we're around day to day, and we go to parties and we try and hang out with people, and it's like it just don't work, you know. Like you're a 26, 25-year-old guy hanging out with like 18, 19-year-olds. It's kind of odd, you know, like to find common ground when you've got so much different, you know, like.
Social studies has changed.
So that I think is one thing I would say about being like, you know, and how has the military like better prepared me for being a student is like, I'd say discipline is probably the single biggest thing, and like teamwork is also noticeably different. Like especially with group projects, trying to organize a group project with students is like trying to herd cats sometimes. Like when can we all meet, when can we do this, and then like people don't want to do it so they don't show up when they say they will. But like as a student vet, like I'd say most of the vets that I've talked to and know, like we go to class, we do the readings, we, you know, like we're there, we participate, at least more so than the average student would. We give more of a shit than most students would, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk very academic since you know I'm a Michigan student. I really think you have to really put in the perspective of social identity, right? Because being a veteran is a whole other category of social identity that we actually don't really talk about or don't really understand. And when you think about any other social identity, right, that comes with its own stereotypes, that comes with its own perceptions and its own prejudices, right? And us trying to navigate those stereotypes and those perceptions of us as the population and trying to figure that out in the civilian world. We just came out of the military, you know, and then to come into this, you know, this weird setting where most people are 18 to 22, and trying to figure out being a student at the same time trying to figure out what's it like being a veteran in a civilian society, and then compound that with the fact that, you know, I feel very lucky. I don't have a wife or kid or anything like that, you know. I was only in for about 4 years. Some people have been in for 10, 12 years, you know, or even more. And then all of a sudden they have to come in, you know, into classroom, you know, with a wife and kids or a husband and kids, you know, and trying to figure that out. Like, you know, I came in, I was 22 when I first started, and that's a pretty normal experience. But even then, people, you know, I lived in Markley as a 22-year-old veteran, you know. So for those of you that know Markley, because they just kind of put me in there, it was different because the first thing people asked were like, how old are you? I was like, darn it, like I thought I got past this, you know what I mean? Like I thought I blended in, but here I am, you know. Other people don't see that, so you know. And I think age is part of it, you know. That's a big piece of it as well. It's just think of it like I said, like think of it as another social identity, and think of it as part of your experiences, you know. And I'm taking an educational psych class, and we talk about stereotype threat, you know. So how African American students, you know, they, you know, just knowing that, you know, the test and the perceptions around it, you know, that takes cognitive power, that takes a mindset. It's the same thing with us veterans. It takes it takes brain power to really figure it out, you know, to like, you know, and I know like we've talked about this, you know, in the SVA as well. You know, sitting in classrooms, some people talk about their experiences and they'll talk about this and that, and then some of us vet, we don't even want to say we're vets because we don't even know like what does that even mean, you know. So some of us try to hide it. I know when I first came out, you know, I think a lot of us veterans were like, all right, I'm done, you know, like I don't want to be a part of this, you know. I think that's a totally normal feeling, you know. You know. But then you go into this environment and you have something to contribute. You have something that's part of your social identity that would add to the conversation, but you don't know how to approach that because you don't know how the other students will react. You don't know how your professors react. I had one of my PAVE guys, one of my PAVE mentees, he told me how he talked to a professor once, and he was, for an advising appointment, he was like, yeah, you know, I'm doing this, and the professor was like, yeah, you're doing great. And then he's like, oh, but I was a Marine. And then all of a sudden, the conversation steered like, well, maybe you shouldn't do this, and this. And already there's that perception, right? There's that perception, especially for Marines, right? We're viewed as, you know, really hard charging, but not the smartest, you know, branch in all honesty. But it's right, yeah. You know, it's a whole spectrum. You know what I mean? Like we have the smartest ones, we have the not so smart ones as well too. So that's everywhere that you go. You know, so I think just knowing that, like, you know, we're trying to navigate ourselves through this space at the same time everybody else is, you know, and then we're carrying all that as well too.
Really? Oh, you knocked it out of the park now.
That's what I do, representing everyone.
So I want to open up for some questions, and hopefully you have some. What kind of, based on some of the, little teasers we got up here, little appetizer for the main course, right? So what kind of questions do you have for them about being a student here, about being a vet, about their time in the service? So any of those kind of topics we can talk about. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name in the middle of the Marine Corps.
Rob.
Yes. So, you talked about how you got accepted to Naval Academy and ROTC, and you didn't feel like you could, go that route without having that experience on the enlisted side. So, that's not an uncommon thing to do. So, what advice do you have for those that are about to do that?
No, I really appreciate that question, because just you guys being here and trying to understand what that perspective is like for us to me that shows what a good officer would do, right? Because I've had both, you know, Mustangs, you know, so former enlisted officers, and I've also had officers who were, you know, just ROTC, VMI was one of my favorite ones, and just that empathy, right? Just that understanding, like, you know, I'm not going through those same experiences, and I think this goes for the entire student population. It's like, if I were in your shoes, like, I know I didn't go through your experience, but here's the mission. Like, let me see what I can learn from you. Not coming in it where like, okay, you know, I'm in charge of you, you know, all that kind of stuff. I think it's going in and understanding like everybody has their piece to give, right? And ultimately it does fall on you. You know what I mean? That's the biggest piece of being an officer. Ultimately it does fall on you. You know, you're the one that signed that gear on your inventory list, so hopefully one of your lance corporals or so on and so forth doesn't lose it, so I feel really bad for that. But, and yeah, it's like coming at it where you know that there's this informal knowledge that you don't know, right? So I think just having that empathy and like really caring about your junior Marines, because as a E1 private all the way up to lance corporal, even as a corporal and sergeant, most of your officers don't care about you. In all honesty, you know, they're out in the company office, you know, doing their thing, and here we are, you know, trying our best. So, you know, I was lucky enough where I had good officers, but I've also seen bad officers and what they do. So that's the advice I would give.
Yeah, like, I mean, I know you asked John, but I'll piggyback on that real quick just to say that, like, you know, like, your enlisted guys, they're more than just deadlines and, like, you know, numbers and stuff. Like, they're people too, and you always gotta have to make sure to, like, keep your team, like, within your mind, you know, the welfare of your troops, like, within your mind, because they'll know if you don't. They'll know how much you actually care about them. And if they know you don't, if they think you're apathetic toward them, they will be more apathetic toward your leadership as well. Hey, I caught it.
Yeah, I know, but it's better than our SVA meeting still, so that's okay.
And it's not me this time.
Yeah, good old Johnny boy.
So in regards to not being a Mustang and just being, you know, a fresh officer coming straight out of ROTC or OCS, I guess my recommendation as far as, you know, I guess earning the respect of enlisted who, you know, might have experience knowing what they're doing and